One of the things you may have observed across my channel is that I don't really do story reviews or cast my critical opinion on Wuthering Waves' stories, even though some people have really wanted to know about what I think, given that Wuthering Waves' story is a bit of a contentious topic. Outside of some collaborations I've done with other creators though, I don't really talk about my opinion or give a rating out of 10 a lot of the time for stories. So the question that some people have asked me is really, why don't you do all of that? And I don't want to leave you guys hanging, so I'm going to push the main reason right off the bat, right? And then I'm going to go into a lot of detail as to why I think this way. The key answer is that the reason why I don't really critique the story is that across my personal journey of reading, writing, and studying writing in university, I really learned that criticism and your appreciation of a story is inherently subjective. And it's here that I want to really make a bit of a caveat, because despite what I just said, I don't want to mean that you can't criticize the story. I think general criticism is completely valid, but there are some nuances to this which I'm going to elaborate upon. One thing you need to first kind of understand is that general criticism and understanding the merit and the value of not just stories, but really any kind of art is always going to be filtered through an Overton window. If you don't know what that is, then I guess you could say that an Overton window is kind of like a mental gate or like a window, right? And it's a filter or a spectrum of ideas and opinions which are mainstream or acceptable at any specific point of time. And as someone who studied both literature and history, that's something you see a crap ton across time, right? The standard we've used to discuss stories has radically changed across history. For example, during the Enlightenment, we saw how stories like Voltaire's Candide showed that good stories were humanist and intellectual. Then within the Romanticist period right afterwards, it was the complete opposite, as good stories were ones that delved into, like beauty, the state of humanity within nature, whatever, right? And today, hundreds of years later, again, the way we see stories have changed. The point I'm trying to make here is that what constitutes a good story has a general standard that most people agree on, but any standard that you create for judging storytelling is still inherently subjective. Like, when I think about this topic, I always think about Starship Troopers, right? You guys may know that movie. When it first released, everyone thought that movie was complete garbage. Like, it was just childish, it was like ridiculous. It was basically low quality sci-fi slop that kind of, I think it crashed and burned into like the box office, right? And the funny thing is, you see like some 30 years later, a lot of people now see that movie as one of the greatest films of all time. It's one of, for example, like the films where when you reanalyze it, it's actually like a socio-political satire on authoritarianism or some shit, right? And it's so good to the point that one of probably the most successful games this past decade has been based upon it.
Look familiar? Scenes like these are happening all over the galaxy right now. You could be next. That is, unless you make the most important decision of your life. Prove to yourself that you have the strength and the courage to be free.
Anyway, I want to really reiterate that I'm not trying to say that criticizing stories is pointless. One of the things I learned across reading, writing, and especially my uni degree is that story analysis is really valuable. Literary critique is something you do a lot of if you study in uni, right? And whenever I talk about something like this, I always remember a scene that my professor showed our class from the movie Cosmopolitan.
What's wrong with a novel having a virtuous heroine?
His point is that the novel's premise, that there's something immoral in a group of young people putting on a play, is simply absurd.
You found Fanny Price unlikable?
She sounds pretty unbearable, but I haven't read the book.
What?
You don't have to have read a book to have an opinion on it. I haven't read the Bible either.
What Jane Austen novels have you read?
None. I don't read novels. I prefer good literary criticism. That way you get both the novelist's idea as well as the critic's thinking. With fiction, I can never forget that none of it ever really happened, that it's all just made up by the author.
And what I really got from studying writing in uni and my own reading, because I didn't fully agree with everything that my professors told me, right, is that with writing, what you consider to be good writing is not the definition that will apply to everybody else. It's really a kind of death of the author sort of thing. Actually, in fact, now that we're on the subject of university, I think this warrants a little bit of story time, I guess, because I just remember that one of the most memorable experiences I had in uni was when I wrote an essay for the screenplay of Saltburn, and like, man, I tore into it, because for me, I thought Saltburn was like this meaningless psychopathic hedonism slop, right? And my professor hated my essay. I remember this so clearly because I actually even have the screenshot saved, because my professor straight up asked me when he was reading my essay if I was capable of feeling love, which was and still is like super funny to me, right? And like that's like the craziest piece of feedback I ever got for an assignment, which is like hilarious. And to be fair, no hate to that professor, by the way. In fact, that guy was probably one of the best teachers I ever had in uni. And I got a great score for that essay, by the way. But anyway, like the lesson I really learned from the experience and why I brought it up is that stories and how you interpret them can be so conflicting. And honestly, I think that's okay, right? My professor loves Emerald Fennell, but I think most of her films are crap. And what she did to Wuthering Heights constitutes, in my opinion, a crime against literature. But I'm not gonna shit on you for liking Emerald Fennell, right? I understand why somebody would like her films from their perspective. And I think that's where a lot of the drama from story critique for Wuthering Waves and maybe other gachas really comes from, right? Because people try to be like a paragon of reason or some judge of writing etiquette, or maybe they try to fit stories within an objective criteria when, frankly, there's very little that is objective about how an audience is going to perceive or consume a story. Like, this may be a bit of an oversimplified analogy, but I want you guys to kind of think about story critique in the same way as whether you like or you don't like a food, right? Because people like and dislike different foods, and I think most people think that's okay. For instance, I hate bananas, and there's basically nothing you can do to make me willingly eat a banana. But I am 100% capable of understanding why other people like bananas. It's quite literally a matter of taste, right? And while it's not like obviously a perfect analogy, I think you can take a rather similar perspective to story critique. When you're critiquing a story, it's good to keep an open mind of your biases and preferences and basically make that aware to your audience. And also, when you're seeing someone else's critique of a story, it's important to know that it's their opinion, right? Besides stuff like, for example, you have an issue of how they're presenting it with an attitude or something, there's no need to be really angry at any story review, because what really matters is how you see it, right? That's all that like really matters. And within a game, especially like Wuthering Waves, you need to also understand that it is a game that has a huge audience that is scattered across, like Western, Eastern, and other kind of like areas of the world. And the way that, for example, a story is written and judged isn't something that can be entirely seen from a Western perspective. When I was in uni, for example, we learned what good writing looks like from the likes of Dostoevsky, Stephen King, Margaret Atwood. But if you flip the script and think about it from, for example, an Eastern perspective, where a massive portion of Wuthering Waves' audience is, then it's different, right? When I was still in China, I grew up listening to stories of the Monkey King and rhymes from Li Bai, So their style, for instance, is completely different from Western stuff, but it's still really loved by a lot of people. Again, everything when it comes to critiquing art and stuff like this is inherently subjective, right? And while a majority of people, I think, can agree a story is shit when it really is just shit, I think that it's also good to keep a bit more of an open mind when you're critiquing a story or when you're looking at someone else critique a story, right? Because at the end of the day, you really need to kind of like think, you need to make up your own mind, right? You guys can't just, for example, listen to someone say a story is shit or good and then basically kind of like parrot what they're saying. Like, have some critical thought, right? And that really kind of just brings me back to the question from the beginning of this video, right? Being why I don't really make story critiques on the channel. Given the stuff that we've talked about from this video, you can probably see why, but all in all, I think everybody is going to interpret and consume a story differently, right? And instead of telling you guys how to think outside of like specific circumstances, I prefer to enhance your own existing understanding, right? There's stories in Wuthering Waves, for instance, like Yuno's story, which I really enjoyed, and I think a lot of people in the community actually had a lot of issues with. And honestly, I think that that divergence in opinion is fine, right? You don't need to adhere to the groupthink to invalidate your own opinion. So hopefully that cleared some stuff up, because I do know some people have really wanted me to have a critical opinion on Wuthering Waves' story and such, but frankly, that isn't really up my alley, right? So as always, if you have gotten this far, thank you very much for watching, and I hope you guys all have a great rest of the day.